Hello, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. I hope you are having a good day. It's been a while since I've filmed, but this palette has sparked my interest enough to think that maybe I could start again. So we are going to be using the Come Play With Us palette by Bella Beaute Bar. I am starting with the shade Isolation, which is a very, very pale blue, and I'm going to start by packing that in my inner corner and bringing that up in the inner part of my crease, and also packing it just in that first part on the lower lash line as well. This is only my second time ever using Bella Beaute Bar shadows. This is my first time using this palette specifically. However, I've used the Pastel Gardens palette once previously, and I did like the formula. And this palette looked like my perfect Christmas color story. So I thought I would also pick this one up. This shadow lays on pretty good. I wish I had put on a light primer underneath my eye a little bit, because I did set my concealer with setting powder and it was having a little bit of problem sticking to it, but that is user error. That is not fault of the shadows in any way, shape, or form. And I am just looking for a brush that I had thought I had but had put back away, just to blend the edges of this shade a little bit. And now going in with the shade Red Rum, which is the red matte in the palette. I am using an angle brush. It's kind of an old brush from Odin's Eye, but it was the shape I was looking for in this instance. And I am just going to start to map out where I want this red shade and making sure that I connect my lower lash line with my upper, just because I do have hooded eyes and it's just easier for me to get the shape I'm looking for that way. The shadow goes on really well. It picks up a bit, so I do have to tap off the brush just to make sure I'm not getting any fallout, but it does lay down quite nicely. And then I'm just going to fill in that shape with a shader brush and start to blend the edges just a little bit until I'm happy with it. I'm never concerned about a perfect blend because I don't have the patience for that. But as long as I get it to a point where I'm happy, then I am absolutely fine with however my blend turns out. And since there is not a deeper red in the palette, I'm going to dip into Typewriter, which is the deepest blue. And I'm just going to use a little bit of that just to get some depth in the outer corner, just to give a little bit more dimension. I generally like to have at least one deeper color to go in with, and this shade will do the trick for that. I'm never worried about combining reds and blues. They generally turn out quite nice. So I think it works out well for this purpose, and I'm just going to go back and forth and blend a little bit. And if it doesn't blend the way I want it to, I will just use a little bit of my face powder to get the blend where I want it. And I'm going to prime my eyes with a new to me primer, which is the Shine On, which is a collab between Clionadh Cosmetics and Bad to the Brow. And I'm just going to tap that on where I want my shimmers. And I'm going to go in with the shade Imaginary Friend, which is the most gorgeous shade. And I'm not 100% sure what color it is. I wouldn't call it a gold. I would lean more towards a bronze that has green and red sparkles in it. It is so captivating and beautiful, and I'm still getting used to my setup again, and nothing is going to do this shade justice. It's kind of something you have to see in person to truly appreciate the beauty of it. If you want to see really good swatches, I would suggest Deandra Nicole on Instagram. Her swatches are phenomenal, and she does do all the Bella Beaute Bar shimmers justice when she swatches those. And dipping into the shade Elevator a little bit, which is a red shimmer. I'm just going to put that out on the outermost part of my lid and blend a little bit with Imaginary Friend, just to have a little bit of interest on the outer part of the eye. And just taking a small blending brush, I'm going to blend the matte shadows from my outer corner with the shimmer, just so that they mesh together nicely and that there's no harsh lines. And I will also blend a little bit of that light blue back in the inner corner over Imaginary Friend as well, just to make sure that they look meshed together and nice. And I'm going to pop in with a small shader brush and take some of Isolation and pop that under my brow. I haven't been doing many brow highlights, but I saw somebody use colorful shadows under their brow on Instagram, and I thought it was really cute. So I thought I would try it, and I really like it. So I might be doing that more often. For highlighter, I am using Dieverune Cosmetics highlighter in the shade Rainbow. I've never used their highlighters before, and this took me by surprise. They're very beautiful. If you don't like a glittery highlighter, this is not for you. And it's so special because you see all of the different colored sparkles in it, even once it's applied and blended out. They don't just mesh into one color or blend to nothing. You really do see the rainbow of sparkles in it once it's applied and blended. And this is the finished look for day one. I really like how it turned out. I'm feeling very rusty at this point, but I do really like how it turned out, and I cannot wait to play again with this palette tomorrow. Welcome back for day 2 of my 3 looks with Bella Beaute Bar's new Come Play With Us palette, which is a Halloween/Christmas palette. To start, I am going to be using the shade Hedge Maze, which is the deep green, it is the only green matte in the palette. And I'm going to start by using, it's kind of a mix between a blending brush and a shader brush, and I'm just going to start packing that in my crease so that I can work on blending after. At first I just want to go in light layers to try to get it packed on and try to blend as much as I can since there's not a lighter green to blend with. And this brush from Singe has been doing the trick for me for being able to pack on and blend. So we'll see where we get with this. And grabbing a small shader brush, I am going to take that same shade and start to stamp it on my lower lash line and connect to the upper lash line that way. And once we get where we want with that, I'll start to blend that out as well. But right now I just want to make sure I get it packed on. I don't have any powder under my eyes on this day, and I did put a little bit of primer along my lower lash line as well, just so that the shadows would have an easier time sticking. And I'm going to take this shade all over the lid as well, and I'll just make sure that I use a primer when I go in with shimmers later. And now that I have that where I want, I will just work on getting this blended to where I am happy with it. And going through the second eye at definitely a faster speed, I do find it's very important for me to make sure I look straight ahead with my eyes relaxed when I am trying to get the shape right, because since I do have hooded eyes, if I don't continually check that way, I often don't bring it up high enough so that you cannot see the color at all. So I often check and make sure that my brows are relaxed and I'm looking straight ahead. And now taking a small blending brush and the shade Isolation, which is the lightest blue shade in the palette, I'm once again going to pack that on my inner corner. It kind of is the perfect inner corner matte for me. And I'm also going to bring that up and blend it in a little bit with the green, not a whole lot, but a little, and also drag that under on my lower lash line a little bit as well. And taking a little shader brush, I'm also going to take that Isolation shade under my brow again on this day. I did really like the way it worked on day one, so I decided to give it a try again. And now priming my eyes for shimmers with Shine On by Clionadh Cosmetics and Bad to the Brow. I am going to go in with the shimmer called 237. Looking directly in the pan, it looks like a green shimmer. It does shift to purple. I'm not 100% sure if there's another color in there. I think it might be a duochrome and just do the green and purple shift. And I am going to pack that over most of my lid. I do start by going in with a brush, but I find, much like with isolation in day one, it just applied better with my finger. So I do go in with my finger to put it on. And I do get a little bit of fallout with these shimmers when I put them on. I don't find it's terrible to clean up. They've been fairly easy to clean up. But I do get some fallout, and they do crease on my eyes. They've creased on my eyes once throughout the day whenever I've wore them, which isn't a deal breaker for me. I can easily tap them out with my finger and then I'm fine. I do think one of the reasons they creased, A, because I'm getting older and I have aging eyelids, and B, I went in first with a brush before I went in and put it on with my finger, so I think it might have been a little too thick on my lid and it creased easily, because once I tapped it out, it did not crease again. And going in with the shade Hedge Maze on a little blender brush, I am just going to tap that over the outer part of the shimmer 237 just to make sure it blends nice and that there's no really harsh lines. I would like it to look a little more blurred. And I'm going to re-intensify my lower lash line with Hedge Maze just because I felt like some disappeared a little bit while I blended it. So I'm just going to re-intensify and then grab a clean blender brush and just blend that out a little bit more. Now using the shade Shine, which is an iridescent, it has some green shimmer to it. I'm going to just lightly tap into that with a blender brush, and I'm going to go over the blue in the inner corner with that and just kind of give that a little blend through the inner part of the crease and the inner corner, just to give some shine and just a little bit of interest really to that part of the look. And that's just showing where I got some fallout, which I did get cleaned up. And going into the Spring Magic Blush Palette by Unearthly Cosmetics, I'm going into Incantation, which is kind of a peachy pink blush, and I am just going to pack that on. It is kind of hard to see in the video with the lights, but it is quite apparent in real life. And now another highlighter from Dieverune Cosmetics. This was from their Bizarre Botanicals collection. It's called Fanged Flora, and there are two sides to it. There's one that's iridescent and one that's got a little more green to the base. And I am just going to blend those together and start to apply that. And much like the shade Rainbow from day one, it blends beautifully, but you still see all the different colors of the sparkles. They don't just become one shade or blend away to nothing. You still get to see all the sparkles, and I really, really like these highlighters. I may have to pick up some more. And I popped a little bit of a Rare Beauty highlighter just on the tip of my nose and on my Cupid's bow. And this is the finished look. I really love how this turned out. It did crease on me a little bit, but like I said, no problem tapping it out. It's been really great to work with these shadows, and I'm very excited for day 3 because I intend to jump into the blue shadows. And welcome back for day 3, if you are still here, of using the Come Play With Us palette by Bella Beaute Bar. And today I kind of want to try a halo eye, which I'm not great at doing halo eyes because my eyes are unsymmetrical and they're hooded, so they're a little harder to do for me, but I do generally like the way they turn out when I do them. So I am taking, I believe it's an EO1 by Singe Beauty, and I am taking the shade Twins, which is the mid-tone blue from the palette, and I'm just going to start packing that and leaving a space in the center for where I want the lightest shimmer to go. I will work on blending once I get it packed on where I want it. But right now I just want to make sure I get it laid out in the shape that I'm looking for, and bringing it onto my lid in a little bit. This brush has been a workhorse for me. I use it a lot, and it made doing this halo eye a little bit easier, so maybe I'll attempt them more often with this brush. I do have a couple of them. And with the side of this brush, since it's kind of flat, I find it works really well for packing shadows on the lower lash line as well. So I'm going to take the shade Twins and get that packed underneath as well, leaving a space in the inner corner for a highlight. And now speeding up to do the second eye. This is the hardest part for me, is trying to get them to match since my eyes are not symmetrical, but as long as I can get it close enough, I'm happy, because nobody should be directly in your face looking at your blend anyway. So I would say treat it like a Monet, and as long as it's good enough for you, don't worry about what anybody else says. And going in with a little Packer shader brush, I am going to take Typewriter, which is the deepest blue in the palette, and I'm going to work on deepening up my outer corner and inner corner of my eye and getting that blended with Twins. And I'll go back and forth a little bit with this and Twins just to make sure the blend is somewhat okay to my liking. And I will connect it a little bit on the bottom on the upper lid. I just want to keep that top part empty for the lightest shimmer that I intend on putting there. But these shades are blending together really, really nicely, and I expected them to. They're both blues, so I'd never expect to have an issue when I'm just attempting to blend a darker blue with a lighter blue. So this worked just as expected, and they blended together quite nicely. Now taking this super small liner blush that is part of a collab between Blem Bunny and Lynn's Makeup Looks, and I'm just going to use this brush to get that deep blue typewriter as close to my lower lashes as I can, and just getting that a little bit blended with Twins. I'm not too worried yet about getting it super blended, but right now I just want to get it packed on and as close to the lashes as I can. And just going back over with Twins and just making sure that the edge is soft so it doesn't look too harsh where I added typewriter. You can already see that there's a bit of a dip in isolation. I have definitely gravitated towards this color every time I've used the palette so far, and I am going to pack that in my inner corner, and I will also use a little bit to blend out the shade Twins. And I used the Too Faced liner in Killer Black to tightline my upper lashes. And I'm showing one of the metallic Kaleidos liners, but that does not actually stay in my waterline. My eyes keep watering and it will not stay in. So I do eventually switch that liner and use a different one. And priming my eyes for shimmers with the Shine On by Clionadh Cosmetics and Bad to the Brow. I'm just tapping that on, mostly concentrated in that center part, but making sure to tap it a little bit over the mats in the inner and outer part. The first shimmer I'm going in with is Snow Cat, which is the most beautiful blue shimmer. And I'm just going to pack that on the outer and inner parts, making sure I leave a spot in the center empty for the lighter shimmer that I intend to go in with. And this shade goes on quite nicely, and I didn't feel that I had to go in with my finger for this one. It picked up quite nicely, as did the red shimmer from the first look. I think these shimmers aren't quite as flaky as the other ones were, so they picked up with a brush really nicely and didn't give me any issues. So that was quite nice to not have to do that this time. And just taking a little brush with a little bit of typewriter on it, just to make sure I keep the depth in the inner and outer corners where I had initially laid down those mats, just to keep that depth there and keep it blended really nice. For the center of the halo eye, I am going to go in with the shade Blizzard, which is marbled in the pan. It's really, really beautiful. And I'm just going to use a little packer brush for that and just start to tap it on, and I will bring it almost right up to my brow, and I will blend over Snow Cat a little bit with that, just so they look meshed together. These also creased on me a little bit through the day. Only once I tapped them out, and then once they were tapped out, they stayed on. No issue, no creasing for the rest of the day. But once I did tap them out, I will say the Snow Cat and Blizzard shades did blend together a bit more, which is not really an issue for me. It doesn't bother me at all that the center part really blended together more and I lost that definition. But I did have to tap them out, but that's just having aging eyelids and hooded eyes. A lot of shimmers now crease on me, so it's really not a deal breaker for me to have to tap them out. I don't babysit them a lot. I don't spend time checking to make sure they're okay. If I happen to notice that they're creased, I tap it out. It's not too big of a deal for me. And I'm also dragging the shade Blizzard under my brow as well, just for a bit of a brow bone highlight. And it's connected from where it starts in the center of the halo. I have it drug up right through to under my brow, and I also tap some over the blue in the inner corner of my eye. And I'm trying again to get the Kaleidos liner to stay in my waterline, and it's just not. My eyes were extra watery. I did have some fallout again from the shimmers. I didn't have any issues cleaning it up. It cleaned up quite well. I couldn't get it to clean it up with a brush. I did end up just wiping the sparkles off and tapping over it with my foundation brush. But it cleaned up nicely. For blush, I went in with the Lunar Eclipse palette that Ellis Atlantis did in collaboration with Blem Bunny. This is my favorite blush palette in existence. If I don't put it out of my sight, I will use it every day and never use anything else. And I use all 3 shades when I use it. So I start with the deepest shade and just do a little bit and place it almost where you'd place contour, and then go over it with the middle shade, and then go over everything with the lightest shade. And that is my favorite way to use this blush palette, and I love it. And I love a pink blush with blue eyeshadow. It feels very 80s to me, and that could be my favorite thing ever. And for highlighter, I decided to go into my Odin's Eye blue highlighter, and I believe it's called, I'm not 100% sure what it's called, but it's their blue highlighter. I'm not sure they still carry this, which is a shame, because these highlighters that were part of this collection were absolutely stunning, and it is one of my favorite highlighters that I have. So I tend to go a little ham when I use it, and I do also put it on my nose. I don't care if it's a colored highlighter. I think it looks great. And for my waterline, I did end up going in with the Melt Gel Eyeliner in Onyx, and that had no issue sticking in my waterline. It generally stays in all day. I don't have any issues with melt. And this is the finished look, and I love the way it turned out. But I am always going to be biased towards something blue, and I think I might have to try Halo Eyes more, because that brush made this easier than I remember them being. And overall, I have to say I'm very pleased with this palette. I think it might be my new favorite Christmas palette. Maybe, we'll see. But yeah. Thank you very much for watching, if you stuck around for this whole thing, and hopefully another video to come. Bye.